For today's video, I thought we'd take a little bit of a stroll down memory lane, if you will, and recount some of the luxury experiences that have been very memorable. Not in a good way, as you can probably tell from the title of this video. I feel like on YouTube, this is especially an important topic to cover because you really don't see many creators talking about the worst experiences they've had in these stores. You hear a lot of people talking about the etiquette of how to behave in a luxury store, how to get the best service, how to build relationships, but rarely do people actually speak out around the terrible experiences that they had. And I know it's a little bit of an oxymoron in a way to perhaps be a luxury creator and talk about the poor service. Perhaps it may seem to some that it negates the purpose of getting luxury, probably a topic for another time. But I feel for myself anyway, as a creator in this niche and as a customer as well, we should talk about poor treatment, especially if prices are going up and quality is declining. At least the one thing you could count on before is being treated like a decent human being. But nowadays it feels like article after article, experience after experience is less than adequate, especially if you're aspiring to buying luxury, if you're newer to luxury. Nowadays, it may feel like it's not worth the money. So that's why I wanted to do today's video. Learning from the experiences of others will save you time, save you money, and help you avoid brands that don't give a crap about you. In store, obviously, you do get the variety because when you're buying online, it's just, a screen, so you don't actually have human interactions. But in store is where I find buying luxury to be the most gratifying, the most exciting, because you're physically there, all your senses are going, and you get to build a relationship with somebody. And that's the thing that I enjoy the most, and I'm grateful to have many wonderful relationships with sales associates. So this video is by no means casting a broad brushstroke on them. Having said that, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And some of these stories are a bit ridiculous, to be honest, but there are, I think, 4 standout experiences that I thought were worth talking about today. But before I get into these stories, just a quick bit of housekeeping, especially for my returning and frequent viewers. I'm using a new camera that I've bought primarily to do with like quick vlogging videos and whatnot. It comes with a little microphone because obviously sound quality, video quality in general is something that I want to make sure that is the best experience for you. So let me know if you like this kind of more casual setup, because if I'm honest, setting up my DSLR camera with the lights and mics and all of the other bells and whistles on top of it, it's a lot of work, whereas this one is basically just like a point and shoot. So let me know your feedback after you've watched this video. Let me get into my first experience, which is of course none other than the most infamous brand for poor experiences, one of anyway, and that is Chanel. I think some of you will think of another brand, but that's coming later, okay, so hold that thought. So we're talking Chanel. Obviously, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I love the brand, and I actually just like the aesthetics. In an ideal world, they wouldn't attach themselves with all this poor publicity, but I suppose if you have your marketing or media hat on, all publicity is good publicity. I think from deducing the size of my collection, how frequently I used to shop, one might think that I had a long-standing relationship with an SA, many SAs. While that was true in particular for the shoe department, so in Shoe Heaven, I had a wonderful sales associate there that I was, I would like to say I'm still very good friends with. He's since left, which is so sad for me because I just haven't clicked with somebody in that way since. I would say when it comes to handbags, I have been more random assignments. That I suppose is, one of the ways in which I have not had a great connected experience shopping through Chanel. I'm also mindful that I did used to go to Heathrow a lot, and I did have a relationship pre-Brexit, EU days when we could get tax returns. I would frequently shop with one sales associate there, but obviously since that point, there was no real reason to shop at Heathrow compared to a Harrods or indeed abroad where I could actually get a tax rebate. It's useful context in setting the scene because there are actually 2 instances that I'm gonna run off in this list of only 4. The first one I'm gonna talk about is actually at the flagship Rue Cambon, and the other experiences at Harrods. So the first one was an isolated incident, I suppose, in Rue Cambon, and I've actually talked about it in a previous video. I was returning from a wonderful trip to Cuba, so it was late summer last year, And one of the connects that we were going back through was actually to Charles de Gaulle Airport. And we had done the flights such that we actually had, I think, was it 11-hour layover in Paris before then flying from Charles de Gaulle Airport back to Heathrow. And we had fast track, so we could go in and out super quickly, don't have our luggages on us, fantastic. Haven't been to Paris for many, many years. So we get to Rue Cambon, one of the first locations we get to actually, I think after a bit of coffee, because it was very early in the morning. And obviously I wanted to go specifically to that boutique because of the iconic white bag. And it was so early in the morning, we were like, yes, we're gonna catch it just as it opens, no queue whatsoever. And wrong we were, because while on the outside, there didn't seem to be really a queue. There was maybe like a couple of people. There was an inner maze of a snake queue going all throughout the store. And given that we only had, I say only, 4 hours or something to spend in Paris, this wasn't a good use of time. And I felt for my poor long-suffering boyfriend who's come on many a shopping trip. And obviously he knows the deal, right? And I try and be as efficient as I can, but this was something that I could not have foreseen, especially at the hour that we were there. And actually, I think I mistakenly thought there wasn't a queue to actually view the items. I think I thought the queue was for payment or something like that. So I was walking around for ages, and then someone said, oh no, if you want to actually buy something, you have to join this queue. So I thought, oh my God, this is such a waste of my time. What if they don't even have the things that I want? Which, to be honest with you, it was the most boring set of displays, guys. And given that a lot of tourists flock to this spot to get that white bag, there was not a lot of stuff there to warrant spending or spanking like thousands of pounds on. Truly, it would literally have just been there to buy the most expensive paper bag in the world. Being that we were already committed to an extent, I thought, you know what, this seems to look like it's moving quickly. And so I just stayed there. Poor boyfriend just sat on the sofas. All the husbands and boyfriends were sat on the sofas. Thankfully, they were waiting areas for them because I basically had to stand for the whole time. So fast forward then, almost an hour, I get to the front of the queue and I'm greeted with one of the rudest sales associates I've had in my life. And I don't say that lightly because, like I said, I have a lot of experiences and I tend to give a lot of leeway and benefit of the doubt. Some people might be having a bad day. Some people might not have much EQ. That all being said, obviously, when it comes to working in like hospitality industries, retail industries, you've got to have a certain level of service, especially in the luxury realm. And, this woman, very rude, was very, very transactional with me, like, what do you want? She wasn't interested in why I was there, what I was looking for. She was just sussing out the dollar signs or euro signs in that case of what I would be useful for. I dress relatively well, usually for these stores, but on that particular day, because we just had a flight, I was in, like a crop top or just like a vest top with shorts. It wasn't as fancy as I may try to go, not because I want to go into the store presenting myself a certain way, but because, I like to dress well. But obviously for the airport and on the airplane, I'm going to dress more casually and comfortably. But obviously she doesn't know that. And obviously they make a lot of judgments based on what you're wearing. And I think there was a Bethany Frankel video, if I'm not mistaken, of her wearing casual clothes being rejected versus when she wore fancy clothes, decked head to toe in Chanel, she got let through in the VIP treatment, all of that business. Basically sussing out and profiling someone before they come in. I definitely felt like that was probably a contributing factor to the reason why she was being very short with me, very blunt. She even pretended like there weren't the sunglasses that I was looking for when I could clearly see them. And I honestly think she was just trying to run the clock out with me so I'd get bored and she could just move on to the next person and get that commission, But that being said, I did find the sunglasses, I tried them on, and I said, is there any new ones in the bag? They had scratches. She was just like very nonchalant, like, no, don't think so. I've been in situations where something is the last of that particular item and they will often try and offer some sort of service to try and alleviate, the situation. So in that case, I would have been perfectly happy for her to, clean it up or check in the bag. I just felt like this woman had no EQ whatsoever. She did not care. She just wanted rid of me. So even though I wanted these sunglasses, I was like, do you know what? No. So I walked away. Thereafter, actually, despite thinking that I wasn't going to get the sunglasses, we went back to Charles de Gaulle much later on when we were going to get back on our flight. And lo and behold, in the airport was a Chanel boutique. Not only do I find them there, they already have the tax deducted. Whereas in Rue Cambon, I'd have had to do some forms, I'd have to fill everything in, go to some sort of like global blue desk and dump the letter somewhere. All that paperwork was then circumvented by buying it directly from the airport. So I thought, win-win. I had a lovely sales associate there. She was looking everywhere for them for a spare one. Very, very accommodating and saying, you know, shall I clean it for you? I'll do the best job that I can. And she did a fantastic job, and there wasn't any scratches on it. So I was very, very happy with the service. Big, big smile, very friendly, very nice, you know, chatty as well. But yeah, that was the experience at Rue Cambon. It was very disappointing. Obviously, I'd have loved to have had the dream-like scenario of going in there, being greeted with champagne, treated so nicely by name ideally, and that just was not there with this woman. But of course, that is not the only bad experience that I've had at Chanel, because I did mention we have 2 in this video, and the other one obviously is at Harrods, or was at Harrods. This one was particularly disappointing because while at Rue Cambon, I can kind of understand because it's a tourist hotspot, because not a lot of residents will buy from there because they can't get the tax back. So it's going to be tourists. It's going to be a lot of new faces every day. Rarely will we see return visitors, right? But with Harrods, there are people who buy in London because, yeah, you can't get the tax back anyway, even if you're an international customer. So you're on the same level playing field. With Harrods, I expected better service, but at least for me in the handbags or the women's accessories department, I didn't get this with this particular individual. I used to go with my mother actually for, you know, big milestone purchases like classic flaps, and on one occasion actually she was very kind enough to gift me a classic flap. And you know, people might online say, well, Mel, don't you have opinions of classic flaps? Yes, I do. But if I'm being quite honest, if somebody is going to be as kind enough to offer to buy me one, I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, okay? And you would be lying if you said you wouldn't either replace classic flap with any type of bag that you maybe have opinions of. If someone was to offer to buy it for you, especially a loved one, especially for a milestone, tell me you wouldn't accept it. Because I know you're lying if you're saying you wouldn't, even if it's just for investment purposes, right? And so that was bought with the sales associate that I'm going to be talking about. He was very, very helpful at that time. He spent almost an hour with me, you know, telling me which ones look the best on me and my frame and the color. And obviously I left with a fantastic experience. We got on very well, and I thought, great, I have a contact that I can hopefully maintain a great relationship with. Prior to that, I was basically mostly shopping with my sales associate in the shoe department, and although he could try and hook me up with bags, it wasn't as easy, right? And we would exchange back and forth, and he would show me the newest catalogs and releases, and that was very helpful. And actually one thing that caught my eye was actually a pair of earrings. I still have them today. They are basically the iconic heart earrings. I'll try and throw up a picture or something so that you see what I mean. Because he sent me the catalogue and everything directly, I thought, fantastic, I can circumvent any kind of waiting lists or whatnot. Then we exchanged messages, and you said, sorry, I can't find these earrings. They are sold out basically upon arrival. So then he just kind of left the chat there. I think maybe he was getting a bit frustrated. So then, you know, somehow I think a few days later I found myself back in Harrods because I was there running some errands. I was in the city, and I decided, why not nip to Chanel just to see what the new collection is saying, right? And I go to the earring section. I'm assigned with somebody obviously by that point, and I say, you know, I'm looking for these earrings. Do you happen to have them in? And lo and behold, that sales associate was very enthusiastic and saying, yes, I think we do. And I think there was even 2 pairs. So I found that very, very strange. So obviously I said, you know, would love to buy them, package them up for me, ring up the bill. And while that sales associate was, you know, taking his time, you know, taking it out of the drawers and whatnot, guess who I see walking right beside me? But that sales associate. I see him, and I just give a very sweet smile because, you know, I'm not rude. I just don't have that room for hate in my soul. So, you know, I'll be nice. Then he comes up to me, oh, hi, how are you? Because he sees that I'm buying the earrings. Oh, you know, they just came in today and I was going to message you. And I was like, yeah, sure you were. After that, you know, I'd go into a boutique time and time again after, you know, not regularly, but, you know, over a period of a few months, and I'd always see him there and he'd always pretend not to notice me, but obviously I did not exchange any further messages with that. But I thought, yeah, it's very rude to try and gatekeep an item, but you're just going to be an absolute arse for no reason. And this experience segues very nicely into the third example, which is also at Harrods. In fact, the fourth is also at Harrods. So a lot of these are Harrods, which is not saying anything about Harrods. It's just maybe the snooty people seem to congregate there, or it's just sod's law really, that I just had to experience it. This experience technically wasn't mine directly, it was actually my friend's. And I'll be delicate in how I manage this because my friend is somebody who is quite well known on YouTube. This individual that I was with, with my partner and with a few friends. He was the guy that is well known to some people, maybe not to everybody, was also there. And we decided to have afternoon tea, but we were there to celebrate my boyfriend's birthday, which is obviously what men do, right? They all joined in as well. And then we went to go do some window shopping, and then we wanted to go and have some drinks or whatever. I think the topic just came up for my friend who was, going on holiday. I think he was going to Mykonos or something, and he wanted some new shoes, and he was showing me ones from like Laura Piana, and he's showing me ones from other brands. And I just said, you know what? You actually need to have. You need to get a pair of Hermes sliders. Is it the sheep sandals? I don't know, I'll throw the name up on screen or show you a picture because you'll know exactly which ones I meant. And so he's like, oh, okay. I thought, you know what, while we're in Harrods, let's go to Hermes and get you a pair in time for your holiday. So after the tea, we went straight to Hermes, got in the virtual queue and whatnot. The queue was already a little bit cumbersome because, they make you play a little bit of a game, don't they? So you're just waiting there and it's not a great use of everybody's time. Then we get a sales associate assigned to him, and it was basically a woman who was coming from like a group of about 4 or 5 individuals. They're just chatting around doing absolutely nothing. And so this woman comes through, greets my friend and greets us. What are you looking for? He's like, oh, and he brings out the Hermes sandals that's on display. Do you have this one in my size? This woman basically pretended like she did not hear. She's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not sure. I don't think we have those, no. And he was like, can you check? There was a lot of back and forth with my friend, and she was basically refusing to go and check, which I found absolutely ridiculous because that is your job. And so then she goes and, goes away, tries to serve someone else because it was just so mad. There were so many people there. And then I kind of regroup with my friend and actually all of us. He's just saying, shall we just go? I don't need them anyway. I said, no, this is not good treatment. But in particular for him, he is somebody that is semi-well known. And I thought, you know what? You should just get the item that you came here for. We waited like half an hour or whatnot. If you really like the item, which he did, and he kind of felt dejected about from the fact that she wasn't going to check, I was like, well, just screw her. Let's just go get your item and go. So I literally walk up to the woman. I said, do you know who he is? No one should have to do this. No one should have to pull this. But I thought, can you at least just help check? And she then goes and kind of does a double take, regroups with her friends or colleagues. And as that's happening simultaneously, someone walks up past my friend and says, oh my God, it's you. Can I get a photo? And then my friend is like, yes, if you do it right in front of that sales associate. So he's taking photos with these people. I think we even went to somebody else to circumvent this woman, to another guy who's a bit more amenable. So they go and check, and then lo and behold, they bring it out in his size, in the color that he wants. And it was just an outrageously stupid and unnecessary experience. If I'm being honest, you shouldn't have to say who you are for people to be like, ooh, let me look him up, because I think that was what they were doing in that little huddle that they were having. But it does feel gross having to do that, but I think he talked about it after the fact, and he said, at least it got the job done. It was just very, very frustrating, especially for a brand like Hermes, who again is not known for their customer service, to treat people in such a way, to then, as an experiment when I did it, only to suddenly change their tune just moments later. And definitely changed the way that I view Hermes as well, because I guess you have to be a somebody for them to release the goods. And then now on to my final incident, possibly the worst incident of them all. And this is actually at a footwear brand, most well known probably in the world for their red bottoms, and that is Christian Louboutin. I actually have the receipts on my phone, which I may call upon. So obviously I shop at Harrods a lot for various things, clothing, accessories, footwear, and I do have somewhat of a collection of Louboutins. I would actually shop primarily with one individual, and that individual had, up until this point, which I'm going to be talking about, this experience, been very kind to me. And there was other sales associates that would serve me and actually try and buy for my commissions, I suppose, and they were all lovely, but I seemed to vibe with this guy, and he really reminded me of my other sales associates in Harrods that I loved so much, who, you know, was just cutting through the BS and was just very straight with me, real with me, and just wanted to help. He sent me such wonderful messages, some of which were like, you know, I'd love to invite you to come over to view some of our new pieces, and, you know, sending me catalogs and things like that. He even said at the time when we were making the transactions, because I bought 2 pairs of shoes, he was very, you know, forthcoming and saying, you know, we often have events here as well, I'll invite you some. So saying all the right things to get me excited about the brand. And actually he would send me lots of communications, and he used to say, you know, like, hey Mel, you know, by name. So it's a very, you know, personalized experience. And he would just send me lots of shoes. And look, not all of them were my cup of tea. So for example, there were some really weird looking shoes. And he would say, this cute heel came in, just thought I'd show you. I think it was probably a mass message, but in the context of what he was writing, it seemed personal. In May, he sends me a message, and it's not addressed by name, so I know this is probably some sort of mass message saying, good morning, as promised, I'll always keep you in the loop here. It's a new private sale, and you know, pieces are here and I can take deposits from today. And he sends me a 51-page document of the shoes. Now, I'll be honest, sales are hit and miss, at least for Louboutin. They always have some weird stuff in the sale. And then there was actually 2 or 3 pairs of shoes that I was interested in. And I said, I'm keen on a couple of bits. We'll send through the screenshots. So one of them was, as frequent viewers may remember, if you've seen the video, the Grego men's shoe there. Another one was a mule, which is baby blue, and the other was a hot chick sling, which is in this beautiful iridescent. And so, spoiler alert, I got the first and the last item. And, you know, he would just send me updates, and he would be like, you know, the only color that's available, or the sizes that are available are this and this. And I'm asking things around, you know, what is the fabric of the man's shoe, because it's in dual tone fabric. So obviously I want to know if it's hard wearing or not. And, you know, that impacts the sizing if you have to wear shoes in. And with sales, you don't get a refund. I think it might just be credit. I think he gets a bit frustrated about all the questions I had around the sizing, especially for my boyfriend's shoe. And he starts addressing me as madam in a very sarcastic way. It's like, yes, madam, they will be shipped to you. And I thought that was a bit weird because he knows my name. I'd assume he would have saved my name. He's used my name before. And so he stops using my name, I think, from that point onward. And then he's sorting out my delivery. Now, an important detail is when you spend a certain amount at Harrods, you become a certain tier of member, and certain tiers of members get free delivery. And he's asking for my rewards card number well in advance, so he knows the deal with this kind of stuff. I've had very proactive sales associates in the past acknowledge, you know, you should get this complimentary and whatnot. And so the item comes in, I think, like 5 days or something. So then I mentioned to him afterwards, you know, my boyfriend's shoes fit, I think, fine. They're a little bit tight, but I think they'll break in. Mine, I'm not so sure on because I got a half size. Would you mind if I can come in? And he basically tried to persuade me not to come in. Me being me, I took that as, you know, he just doesn't want me to do a return or exchange or something because that will look bad on his sales record. But I went in anyway because I was in London, and he was very, very sweet to me when I went in, and I tried it on in front of him, and he got another size out for me, and you know, we agreed that it was the right size for me. It would just take a bit of wearing in. And, you know, he even gave me a hug on the way in, a hug on the way out, saying, you know, oh, we've got a sale coming up or another private preview. I'll invite you to that. So again, saying all the right things and addressing me by name, totally fine, with smiles on his face. So then afterwards, I actually realized when I looked at my statement, because that came in afterwards, that the email receipt had charges for delivery. It's not like I'm a petty person or uptight person, right? I'm pretty generous when it comes to my spend of money, clearly, if I'm buying from Harrods. But I am a woman of principle, and if I am a gold member or a black card member and you know that I am entitled to complimentary delivery, you should honor that. And so I sent him a message saying, I did have a query around the delivery charge. Do you mind if you just refund that to me? Because actually I shouldn't be charged this. Then proceeded a very long stint where he basically ignored me. He would try and pretend like, oh, I'm gonna sort this for you. I'm gonna call you, and he wouldn't call me. Me being a working woman, I'm in meetings, I'm busy, I have a life, you know, I guess our wires didn't cross, our paths didn't cross that day. Then a few days elapse, and then I reach out again, you know, saying, oh, could you let me know how you're getting on with this, please? Because he just totally ignored me for what seems to be 5 additional days. So then in his next message to me, he says, I've been off, Mel. We'll get back in on Sunday from holiday. We'll be in touch then. And then he's like, no hello or anything, even though I'm like, hey. I said to him, this is new information. I didn't know you were on holiday. If I knew you were on holiday, I would not reach out to you. But he didn't respond to me even prior, before he'd went on holiday. So then he's like, giving me a lot of sassy responses. I'm not going to go into all the detail because this is just so boring. And he's pretending, you know, are you free, as in to try and call me. He's trying to get a colleague to sort it, but the colleague never calls. But then he sends a message saying, hey, so-and-so from Louboutin, thought I'd drop you a note to let you know we have some lovely new pieces, blah, 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 blah. Obviously another mass message. And this is now over a month later. I said, hey, you haven't actually solved my previous problem. So why on earth would you think that I would buy with you? And then he's claiming they tried to call me twice. He didn't actually tell me when those were delivered. So obviously, since a month has elapsed, there have been some missed calls. Who knows if it was Harrods, no voicemails were left and all of that. And he then gets someone else to call. They then call and it's sorted on the phone instantly. So I don't know why in this day and age it takes so long to get a refund, but apparently it does, at least for Louboutin. He then says, I've been made aware it's all done, correct? And I just said, yes, it has, though take me off your distribution going forward. And he's like, no problem at all, done. And that was it. And I just found it to be absolutely ridiculous that somebody can treat somebody so poorly. The cheek of it to try and push all of these items on me, knowing full well, you know, I'm a good customer and I've sacked off other perfectly lovely sales associates to buy almost exclusively with him. He doesn't follow through with his invites to things, doesn't follow through with his promise of sorting out my issue. And not only that, is he's like trying to totally gaslight me and his colleagues when he's just incompetent at his job, and he doesn't have any EQ when it comes to customer service as well. So it was just the rudest thing, not addressing me by name. He didn't apologize once actually, which I found was kind of strange. When I said, you know, take me off your distribution because clearly I'm not happy, he didn't even attempt to repair that damage in relationships. He's doing me a favor actually, that he's saving me money because my wallet was hurting from buying a Louboutin all that time. You know, they sometimes send me emails that are just like mass emails for, I guess, you know, clients that have bought from Louboutin for a while. And a part of me wants to be petty and just be like, can you assign me a new sales associate because your other one was so poor? Anyways, those were all of the crazy bad experiences that I've had from luxury stores. That does not mean every luxury experience you have will be poor and that you shouldn't buy luxury, etc. You could get lucky for a good experience, you could get unlucky for a bad experience, but that shouldn't broad brush you either on a brand. Obviously, if you keep getting the same experience, even when you go to different stores or get different people, that's a red flag and you probably shouldn't buy from that brand. But on the whole, even though I've had bad experiences with some of these brands and they're not exactly well known for their experiences being very, very good, I've equally, on the other hand, had wonderful experiences, and sometimes, you know, relationships just naturally come to their end as well. Would I have liked to have given that money to someone more deserving? Of course, but every experience is additive to my life, not a negative, and lessons are always learned, even if sometimes you have to pay for them. Let me know your thoughts on these stories down below. Do you have also a story you would like to share? Because I would love to personally hear from you, especially if they are in the same boutiques or the same brand. So with that being said, thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.